Alright, time to do post UFC 115, even though this is a little later than I usually do it. But you know what? There's a lot to say about this card, and I wanted to get into it. And I didn't really have time until now. So here we go. First fight of the night we got to see. I did not get to see the Spike prelims. I went to the bar to watch this fight, or watch this card, and unfortunately they don't get Spike. Why on earth a bar doesn't get Spike eludes me. But beside the point. So I missed the Wyman Danzig fight and the Tyson Griffin Evan Dunham fight. I hear the Evan Dunham fight with Tyson Griffin was a barn burner. I hear the Wyman Danzig fight was a pass out of Danzig, which I kind of want to see. Okay, anyways, Carlos Condit, Rory McDonald. Carlos Condit has a grievous weakness in his game, and that is takedown defense. It is utterly terrible. Rory McDonald in the first round took him down at will. He couldn't do anything with him on the ground, but I think it granted him 2 rounds basically just on takedowns because it was hanging in there in the stand-up. When it did go to the ground, Condit pretty much neutralized him. Condit, I believe, got to top position in the second round. I did love the Joe Rogan quote of Carlos can't take him down, and it's like he didn't try to take down Joe. That's some solid commentary work there. Yeah, I don't like Goldberg and Rogan. That's just me. Um, so where was I? Oh yes, continuing on, we had third round. Condit decides to say, you know what, you're not going to take me down anymore. I'm going to take you down, basically. Takes him down. McDonald was kind of gassed out at this point. He didn't really have an answer for the top position of Carlos Condit. Fight got stopped in a pretty poor stoppage. Had it been a couple of seconds earlier, I wouldn't even be talking about it because a couple of seconds earlier, Condit was pretty much teeing off at will, and McDonald didn't really have an answer. But it's kind of just weird that once McDonald kind of gets the underhook and pulls Condit down into his guard where he can control him, the ref stops the fight, which was not good. Um, for Rory McDonald, this is a learning experience. He's got to work on the cardio a little bit. I think he does have to work a little bit on his bottom game. His stand-up looks pretty good. His wrestling is pretty good. The top game, I think, still needs a little work because he really couldn't do anything when he was in Condit's guard, which is a bit of a problem. I mean, Condit has a good guard that you're not generally going to have to deal with, but it's something to work on. For Condit, work on your damn takedown defense. God, it's just, it's kind of frustrating that anyone who wants to take him down can take him down. It doesn't matter if you have a good back game because people can neutralize it from the top, and at some point you're going to lose because of it. And he kind of did against Martin Kampmann. His stand-up, I think, also still needs some refinement. Not so much on technical level, but on a mental level. He throws some stupid stuff still, which he really it makes him exciting, but it doesn't make him a better fighter. Moving on, we have Ben Rothwell, Gilbert Yvel. Gilbert Yvel's takedown defense is lacking, and that was largely the story of this fight. I mean, he actually managed to get out from underneath Rothwell, which I didn't think would happen. But two guys gassed. It was not an appealing fight. Props to Ben Rothwell for coming out and doing what he needed to do, and not kind of being lured into the Gilbert Yvel stand with me bitch routine, which has gotten really old. But yeah, that's really about all I have to say on that fight. Martin Kampmann, Paulo Tiago. Martin Kampmann just showing that he's that much better on the feet than Paulo Tiago. I picked Tiago. Hindsight, not the greatest pick, but the hindsight is 2020. He had a hard time on the feet, harder time than I thought with Martin Kampmann. He couldn't really take him down terribly effectively. On the ground, Kampmann held his own. Kampmann actually took down Tiago a couple times. Kampmann just, showing that, he's a challenging fight for, he's a gatekeeper. If you could beat Martin Kampmann in convincing dominant fashion, which, Paul Daly dominated, but it was via the knockout, um, and his just outrageous power, um, and Campman being a bit dumb. But if you can beat Campman, you're headed to kind of a title shot. I mean, Campman himself probably is next in line after Koscheck for a title shot. But that being said, do we really want to see GSP Campman? And for me, anyways, the answer is kind of a rousing no. And that's kind of all there is to that. Mirko Cro Cop, Pat Barry. Pat Barry needs to go for the kill. Early on in this fight, the fight was going like I thought it would. Barry was getting the better of the exchanges. He sat Cro Cop down twice. It was kind of like being in a time machine, though, because occasionally the old Cro Cop would come out. Kind of like, wow, that looked like Cro Cop, versus, insert Pride Fighter. He had a couple of moments like that where he would, come forward with that confidence. The hesitation was gone. It wasn't as dynamic as the old Cro Cop. But I've continuously say this, that I think Cro Cop still has the physical tools. I think his problem is more mental than the other Pride fighters, such as, say, Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira, who just kind of looks old and slow. Whereas Cro Cop, he doesn't quite have that same look of basically just going away, going into the sunset. Doesn't quite have that look to him, and that's why I'm still kind of interested in the fight. But getting on with the fight, Cro Cop got a takedown in the third round, beat Pat Barry up a little bit. In one of the worst rear naked chokes ever, he got Pat Barry to tap out via just basically kind of pinning him up against the cage, punching a couple times, and then just kind of going, you know what? I'm going to choke you. No hooks, no proper positioning, just choke. More or less a headlock. Yeah, Pat Barry, keep working on that ground game, because, unless you can develop a takedown defense that, is completely impervious to getting taken down, you are going to run into this problem again. And the other thing is, he really needed to go for the kill when he had Cro Cop in trouble, and he just didn't. And I don't really know how else to say it. He had too much respect for him, or he's too nice of a guy, and didn't want to beat up his idol, and yeah, just didn't give it his all, and that's it's a strange criticism for me for a fighter, because normally I'm very pro. They gave it their all, they tried, they just made it a bit dumb, but this is just one of those things. Rich Franklin, Chuck Liddell. Again, a little bit of time machine, because Chuck looked good. Like, he was winning the fight up until the knockout. He got the takedown. Rich managed to get back up, but he was doing a very solid job, winning most of the combinations. And then, well, not suddenly, because he was in trouble for a little bit before the knockout. You could see he was kind of wobbly, and then bam, knockout. Rich had a broken arm, which may explain why he was getting outstruck. Um, should Chuck retire is an interesting question. It's up to him in the end. The issue is, if this were anyone else, I think we wouldn't be talking about this. And I'm not even saying that because of the age, because I think after getting knocked out by Rich Franklin, even people who were 40 and put in that kind of solid showing wouldn't have the retirement talks. It's that Chuck Liddell, at this point in his career, has to be a main eventer. You could try giving him the Matt Hughes treatment, where he's fighting down on the card, not fighting like the legitimate guys. But what's the point? It's kind of like, what's the point of seeing Matt Hughes fight at this point? Yeah, they're giving him fights he's going to win, and it's like, but it's kind of painful to watch, because it's just, I don't know. Maybe let him go out on a high note and have put the Tito fight together, and either Tito can get his big redemption, or Chuck can walk off into the sunset on a win. But I don't know. If I'm Chuck, I'm retiring. You're not going to get into the title. You're not the elite of the division at 40 years old. That why fight? Why fight? I don't think you really need the money. We get to see one undercard bout: Mike Pyle, Jesse Lennox. This is a good fight. Good fight. Jesse Lennox got too aggressive a number of times, and we get caught with counters, and then got a little too aggressive again. He dumped Pyle and got caught in a triangle that I hope wins fight of the night, because it was a sweet triangle, and he got just basically passed out. Um, I'm not going to say much more in the fight because I'm running out of time, basically. But that's my thoughts on these fights, and I hope you enjoyed.